who have blessed us today. Can you help me, Trinity? Come on, Chicago. Help me thank God for these women and men of God. Thank you so much. I have been blessed all day long by some of the most prophetic and prolific prognosticators of the gospel on this day. And then to my big brother, my alpha brother, my Morehouse brother, and my brother in Christ, the one and only Dr. Otis Moss III. I know we celebrated him, but let's make some noise for our pastor. Sister Monica, we love you. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor, for being so gracious to all of us today. And to the hospitality of Trinity, God bless you. I consider myself a bootleg member of Trinity UCC. Literally, without this church, I don't know if my prophetic imagination would have been awakened as it was as a high schooler in Atlanta, as a college student in Atlanta. And so I'm forever grateful to Dr. Jeremiah Wright and Dr. Moss for helping me become who I have become today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The only church I know that made it cool to wear Western African garb every Sunday, not just on Black History Month. And to fellowship, I don't know where you are, wherever you are, thank you for being here today. Lady Bree, I saw you sneaking in. God bless you. Sneaking in. It's been a long day, but it's been a great day, and I'm grateful. Come with me to Luke chapter 23, verse 46, the final word of Jesus from the cross. And when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, Luke 23, verse 46, King James Version, and when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And having said thus, he gave up the ghost. I want to talk today with this thought very simply, heavy-handed. Heavy-handed. Smile at somebody and say heavy-handed. Grandma Sharpe was heavy-handed and she knew it. My late paternal grandmother was raised in the country southern fields of Omaha, Georgia, on the borderline of Phoenix City, Alabama, and down in South Georgia. Deer roamed the woods, pecan trees decorated the land, and the house she grew up in with 7 other siblings only had 2 diminutive rooms and was 30 minutes from the nearest grocery store and almost an hour away from the nearest hospital. That's called living by faith. Omaha, Georgia, located right between somewhere and nowhere, located right between right there and somewhere over there. She worked with her hands all her life. Bill Withers was right. I remember grandma's hands. Picking cotton, cultivating the farm, milking the cows, wringing the necks of chickens. And when I learned that was a real thing, it made me shudder to think she used to tell us, you better go sit down somewhere before I wring your neck. That's a real thing, wringing the necks of chickens, collecting eggs from the chickens, gardening and tilling the soil with her hoe. She was not afraid of working with her hands outside, and she wasn't afraid of cleaning or cooking or sewing or yard work. She would steal mulch from anywhere in the neighborhood to put around her own tree. She was heavy-handed and she knew it. She raised 7 children. She had to be heavy-handed, and some of your mothers were heavy-handed, and you remember because you were tender-headed, and you can still feel her plaiting and braiding your hair so tight that you could see your thoughts when she finished. I would ask her to wash my afro in the kitchen sink back in the day when I had a little teeny weeny afro, and she would ask me to please let her know if I'm scrubbing your scalp with too much intensity, because admittedly she knew she was heavy-handed. I would ask for a slice of cake and she would cut half the cake, wrap it up in some Reynolds wrap, aluminum foil, and send me out the door. I'd say, Grandma, that's too much, and she would respond, share it with somebody else. Don't ask her to fix you you a plate because she would fill up your plate until it was running over. She was heavy-handed. Even as a septuagenarian and an octogenarian, the strength of her hands did not match her age. She was heavy-handed, cooking and sharing and gardening and washing hair, prepping food and slicing cake. Heavy-handed. And I couldn't help but wonder, as Jesus faced his last moments negotiating and navigating the existential experience of his human life, why would he say, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit? It was Reverend Tisha Dixon Williams who made me wrestle with the fact, why didn't he say, Father, into thy heart I commend my spirit? We know God loves us. Why didn't Jesus say, Father, into thy mind I commend my spirit? We know God doesn't forget or forsake. God remembered Noah on the ark. God remembered Hannah, and Samuel showed up after years of sclerotic shame and debilitating disgrace. Surely God would remember his son. Jesus could have cried out, Our Father, into thy heart I commend my spirit. That would have connoted the intimacy with God. Jesus could have cried out, Father, into thy mind I commend my spirit. And that would have connoted that he was in the memory of God. However, when your life is slipping away from you at the hands of people, you don't just need intimacy and memory, you yearn for safety. Jesus, in essence, says, I know my God and my Father is heavy-handed. David knew it too, which is why while he was desperate for aid and assistance and an ally and an almighty advocate, in Psalm 31 verse 5, he cried out, into your hands I commend my spirit. Deliver me, Lord, my faithful God. David knew it and Jesus knew it, that God was heavy-handed. God is so heavy-handed that he holds the universe and your heart at the same time. God holds our government with this fragility to keep the arc of the moral universe bending towards justice, and yet holds your fearful heart when you bend your knee in humble prayer. God is heavy-handed. That's why Arthur Pink once wrote, my friend, you are in a world that is full of trouble. You are unable to take care of yourself in life, much less you are unable to do so in death. Life has many trials and temptations. Your soul is menaced from every side. On every hand are dangers and pitfalls. Here then is the beacon of light amidst the darkness. Here is the harbor of shelter from all the storms. Here is the blessed canopy which protects from all the fiery darts of the evil one. Thank God there is a refuge from the gales of life and from the terrors of death. You are in the Father's hands. Is there anybody other than me who understands that God is so heavy-handed that we have a refuge in God's grip? God's hands can soothe a fevered brow. God's hands can set a prisoner free. God's hands can bring the dead back to life. God's hands can satisfy the hungry. God's hands can keep you from falling. God's hands can free you from bad habits. God's hands can release you from fear. God's hands can mend a broken heart. God's hands can stretch a paycheck. God's hands can open a door nobody can shut, and shut a door can nobody open. God's hands can beautify the elderly. God's hands can qualify youth. God's hands can multiply 2 pieces of perch and 5 red lobster biscuits. God's hands can preserve enslaved Africans across the Atlantic Ocean. God's hands can empower Sojourner to tell her truth. God's hands can equip Louis Armstrong to play his jazz. God's hands can anoint Martin King to share his dream. God's hands can enable Aretha Franklin to ask for a little R-E-S. P-E PCT. God's hands can stir the soul of a black preacher from Greenville, South Kakalaki, to shift a nation politically, prophetically, and psychologically to believe I am somebody. God's hands help Maya Angelou's cage birds sing. God's hands can pause a clock for Dr. Otis Moss III to keep us woke when he only has 5 minutes. God's hands can mobilize Dolores Williams' sisters in the wilderness. God's hands inspired Dr. Jeremiah Wright to preach truth even when some black folks preferred a lie. Somebody ought to praise God that he's heavy-handed. Jesus knew it, so as he's passing, he passes his spirit safely in the hands of the I am that I am. Jesus had been in so many hands. His stepfather Joseph almost abandoned him in his hands. His mother Mary didn't comprehend him in her hands. Herod wanted to murder him in his hands. His parents had to hide him in their hands. His own community rejected him in their hands. The Pharisees challenged him in their hands. The Sadducees questioned him in their hands. The Zealots tried to radicalize him in their hands. The Gnostics tried to reinterpret him in their hands. The Jewish aristocracy dismissed him in their hands. The Roman Empire was intimidated by him in their hands. The disciples didn't understand him in their hands. Peter denied him in his hands. Thomas doubted him in his hands. Judas betrayed him in his hands. His followers deserted him in their hands. The Sanhedrin council arrested him in their hands. Pilate didn't acquit him in his hands. The soldiers tortured him in their hands. The thief mocked him in their hands. A centurion pierced him with his hands. The empire lynched him in their hands. Death tried to defeat him with its hands, and the tomb tried to hold him with its hands. Jesus said, enough is enough. Father, into thy hand I commend my spirit. And I can hear Jesus saying, they don't want these hands. At some point you realize that the hands that we have all trusted and sought safety in are not healthy or helpful hands. I know black sisters who have sought safety in the hands of womanism, and some womanists are just as violent and toxic as the patriarchy they claim to despise. I know siblings who have sought safety in the hands of lovers who don't love themselves. And Dr. Maya Angelou once said, be careful when a naked man offers you a shirt. Some black people have found convenience in the hands of MAGA so that they can be where the money resides. But they lower their voices to raise their budget. And they forget that if you flip the words red hat, you're left with the word hatred. Some black preachers, turn me up a little bit in the monitors, I feel like working. Some black preachers have fallen into the sticky hands of white Christian nationalism, which teaches you to love the Bible and not love people. Teaches you that black fraternities and sororities are demonic, and the grip is so tight around some of our necks that we can't see that this is really an anti-black movement seeking to divide and destroy the brightest minds of the black community. To be in a fraternity or sorority, you must be a college graduate in the black community. If they can make us distrust our pastors, disrespect our colleges, and denounce our communities based Greek fraternities and sororities, they just destroyed the core of our black communities. And if Greek is so bad, then what are they going to do when they learn that the entire New Testament was originally written in Greek? Minister Damari Craddock said, so you want me to denounce my Greek letters just to go pick up one of Paul's Greek letters? Some of our leaders and young people have fallen into the hands of uneducated podcasters and bloggers and TikTok videos who distort the truth and cloud our ability to be critical thinkers and engage in helpful conversations. So we will stop participating in harmful crucifixions, because leading crucifixions of each other has always been easier than holding conversations with each other, because somewhere in that conversation you might have to admit, I was wrong. The white supremacists are reaching towards us to belittle us. Capitalism is reaching towards us to corrupt us. Shallow Christianity is reaching towards us to make us useless. Unhealed trauma is reaching towards us to make us self-destruct. Busyness is reaching towards us to make us exhausted. Trump is reaching towards us to keep us so inundated with the next outrageous news report that we never fully addressed the last outrageous news report, because some of your cousins didn't want the AKA, so now we stuck with somebody who acts like the KKK. Our egos are reaching out to us to keep us wearing a mask. At some point, somebody has to be like Jesus and say, I need a heavy-handed God. A God who can hold my spirit, my fears, my joys, my wins, my losses, my mountains, my valleys, my complaints, my pleasures, and by some divine alchemy make all things work together for the good of them who love God. Can we have some Sunday church on a Friday? Does anybody know when God's hand get in it, something's gonna shift? I went yesterday, Dr. Moss, to get a manicure over in South Loop, trying to stay so fresh and so clean. And I just ran in to get a quick manicure, and I knew I was in trouble because it was a walk-in, and I didn't get to select the lady who normally does my manicure. So I knew what it was when I walked in. I said, they're about to put whoever's free on me. And this young lady walked up respectfully. She did the best she could, but I don't put polish on my nails. Ain't no clear on this. I said, I want a shiny buff. And you got to put your hands in it to get a shiny buff. She shined those nails with all of her intensity, and wasn't no shine to be seen. And she looked at me and said, is that all right? I said, that's not going to work. I knew I was coming to Trinity. I had to have my stuff together. So she tried it again, flipped the little thing over, scrubbed again, flipped it back over, tried to buff it. She said, is that gonna work? I said, that's not gonna work. Who can I talk to? She went over to the front desk and tried to explain to them, but then there was a little older Mongolian lady working on somebody else's nails who was really being nosy. And she saw that that young girl didn't have the skills. She said, if you give me 5 minutes, I'm going to help you out. The young girl walked back over. She was nervous. I said, it's all good. This young lady over here said in 5 minutes, she got me. When mother got in front of me, as soon as she grabbed my hand, I knew I was in good hands because the grip felt like a grip of an expert. Has anybody ever needed some help and you felt the grip of God and you knew you were in good hands because it felt like you were in the hands of an expert, a way maker, a miracle worker, a promise keeper, a light in the darkness? I knew I was in good hands. And she fixed what nobody else in that place could fix. You think that's something? Well, this past week, our friend Janelle, Jeffrey Johnson's daughter-in-law came to town to hang out for Jesus Week over at the Ship. And y'all, just a couple of days ago at the Royal Sonesta Hotel, she got stuck in the elevator. And she got stuck in the elevator. And here's what made it so bad. She didn't just get stuck on a floor. She got stuck between floors. So even when they opened the door, she really couldn't get out with ease because she was stuck in between floors. My wife asked, were you scared? When she finally made it out, spoiler alert, she made it out. My wife said, were you scared? She said, I didn't have time to be scared because they kept talking to me through the intercom. I didn't have time to get scared because although I was in there by myself, somebody above me kept talking to me. And y'all, it's a picture that the media team is about to put up on the screen because I need you to see exactly what happened. This is how Janelle got out of the elevator in the Royal Sonesta. She's on the floor taking a picture, and I don't know if you can really pay attention to this, but there is a hand coming in to the elevator saying, I know you in between floors, but if you take my hand, I'll safely lift you up so you can step out. And I need to tell you that Janelle wasn't the only one stuck in between floors. As Jesus was stuck on Calvary, he was stuck in between two thieves, in between the sky and the soil, in between the heaven and the earth, in between grace and justice, in between humanity's worst and God's best, in between the glory of eternity and the crusted earth of human indecency, in between man's sin and God's forgiveness, in between the debt owed and the debt paid, in between failure and freedom, in between hermetology and soteriology, in between transgressions and transformation, in between iniquity and mercy. And I want to just say thank God for a hand. And I came to tell somebody you ought to hold to his hand. God's joy is unspeakable. Hold to his hand. God's peace is perfect. Hold to his hand. God's love is unconditional. Hold to God's hands. God's mercy is everlasting. Hold to his hands. God's truth endures to all generations. Hold to his hands. God's grace is sufficient. Hold to his hands. God's plans will prosper. Hold to his hands. God's anger is just for a moment. Hold to his hands. God's compassions fail not. Hold to his hands. God will not allow trouble to last always. And that's why I grew up at a church that used to sing, time is filled with swift transitions. None on earth unmoved can stand. But you gotta build your hopes on things eternal and hold to God's unchanging hand. Trust in him who will not leave you whatsoever the years may bring. If by earthly friends forsake you, still more closely to him cling. Covet not this world's vain riches that so rapid lead decay. Seek to gain your heavenly treasures, for they will never pass away. And when your journey is completed, if to God you have been true, fair and bright, your home in glory, your enraptured soul shall view. Can you help me have a little church and shake somebody's hand and you sanitize it later? Look them in the eye like they owe you some money and say, hold to his hands. God's unchanging hands. Build your hopes on things eternal and hold to God's unchanging hands. As a matter of fact, I put it all in his hands. I put it all in his hands. No matter how great, no matter how small, he's the master of it all. I put it all in his hands. Well, what did you put? I'm so glad you asked. I put this and that. I put this and that. I put this and that. I can't do it like your pastor, but I put it all. I put it all. I put it all. Say yes, say yes. Put your arm around your neighbor. Oh, put your arm around your neighbor. Shake 'em and rock 'em. Rock 'em and shake 'em. Shake 'em and rock 'em. Rock 'em and shake 'em. And say, neighbor, don't you worry. Your God is heavy-handed. So be not dismayed, Whatever betides you, God will. God will take care of you. Say yes.
My. Won't you give God praise for the 7 preachers who have blessed us today? Come on. If you are blessed today, go ahead and give God praise for what we've witnessed and for what we have heard. The door of the church is open right now. We want to welcome you. And I want to do something. I know that we have our brothers and sisters from Fellowship here. I want to ask that our deacons from Fellowship, along with Trinity, if you want to join Trinity, if you want to join Fellowship, we just want you to be a part of God's church. So we want to welcome you right now. The door is open to you. Hold to God's unchanging hand. We welcome you. God's unchanging hand. Door is open to you. Hold to God's unchanging hand. Let us join hands together, prepare for our benediction. I want to thank God again for these 7 absolutely extraordinary preachers who have blessed us on today. We're going to allow them to exit. For those who have flights, and for those who have to preach tonight. Man.